I never meant for my home to become what it became. I never meant for the halls to close in on me, for the air to thicken with dust, for the piles of old newspapers to rise like walls around my bed, my kitchen, my life. People think hoarding is about objects, about clutter, about laziness or lack of discipline. But it's not. It's a kind of loneliness, a quiet one, a slow one. A loneliness that grows a little every year until one day you wake up buried alive inside it. I didn't see it happening. Or maybe I did, and I chose not to look closely. Looking closely would have meant admitting I was alone, admitting I needed help, admitting the things I kept were standing in for people who were no longer there. And no man likes to admit he has nothing left. The doctors say my lungs have been dying for years, not in sudden bursts. No, they don't collapse like that. They fail quietly, inch by inch, room by dusty room. Chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, a long name for something so suffocatingly simple I can't breathe. I haven't been able to breathe right for a long time. But when you live alone long enough, you get used to discomfort. You tell yourself coughing is normal. You tell yourself wheezing is normal. You tell yourself the tightness in your chest is normal. Old age becomes the perfect excuse for every failing part of your body. It becomes a blanket you pull over every symptom until your body gives up entirely. My wife, Mary, used to keep the house spotless. She had this habit of humming when she cleaned little melodies I didn't recognize, probably songs her mother taught her when she was young. The sound used to annoy me when I wanted quiet, but now I'd give anything to hear it again. She died 13 years ago. Heart failure. Quick. Unfair. I remember standing in the kitchen afterward staring at her favorite mug sitting exactly where she'd left it. I couldn't bring myself to move it. That was where it all started. The mug stayed, then the dishes piled up, then the laundry, then the mail, then the boxes, then everything. Grief doesn't knock you over like a storm. It seeps. It expands. It fills every corner until the walls you built to protect yourself become the same walls that trap you. I kept newspapers because Mary used to read them every morning. I kept magazines because she liked flipping through them while drinking tea. I kept tools because I used to fix things around the neighborhood and wanted to believe I still could. I kept old clothes because they reminded me of days I didn't want to forget. I kept broken appliances because I thought maybe I'd repair them someday, even though that someday never came. I kept everything because throwing things away meant letting go. Letting go meant admitting that life had moved forward without her. My children saw it happening. They tried to intervene gently at first, then more firmly. My son Daniel would say, "Dad, this place isn't safe. Let me help you clean it." I told him the house was fine. He told me he could barely walk through the hallway. I told him he was exaggerating. He wasn't. But pride made me blind. Pride and grief make a powerful combination. My daughter Emily begged me to let her hire someone to help. I said no. Too expensive, too intrusive, too embarrassing. I didn't want strangers touching Mary's things, even though over time everything in the house became Mary's things. The dust was the real killer. Dust from old paper, dust from clothes I hadn't worn in years, dust from boxes I hadn't opened since the Clinton administration. Dust filled the air thick and heavy, every breath pulling tiny particles deeper into my lungs. My coughing got bad around 68. I'd wake up choking, gasping, trying to clear my throat, but nothing ever cleared. The doctor asked me if I smoked. I told him I quit decades ago, and technically that was true. I didn't smoke anymore. I just lived inside the smoke I created. He asked me about my living conditions. I lied. I said the house was old, a little dusty, nothing unusual. He gave me inhalers, steroids, pills, nebulizers. They helped for a while, but medications can't save you from the environment you refuse to change. He told me to keep my home clean. I nodded. I never said I wouldn't. I just never did. I remember one winter morning sitting in my recliner watching dust dance in the shaft of light that came through the curtains. It looked pretty, almost magical, like tiny snowflakes floating through the air. But pretty things can kill you. I didn't know then that every one of those little floating particles was a threat. My lungs felt tight that morning, like someone was pressing a fist inside my chest. I could hear a faint wheeze when I inhaled, a crackle when I exhaled. The wheeze became so normal that I barely noticed anymore. I told myself it was nothing. The same lie that had been keeping me alive just long enough to kill me. My children begged me to move in with them. I refused every time. This is my home, I'd say. I'm fine. The truth, I didn't want them to see how bad it had gotten. I didn't want them to see the towers of boxes, the mountains of newspapers, the piles of clothes that turned the bedroom into a maze. Shame is a prison. You sit in filth because you're too ashamed to ask for help cleaning it. I thought I was protecting my dignity. In reality, I was protecting the very thing that was destroying me. The breaking point came 2 summers ago. It was hot, unbearably hot, the kind of heat that makes the air feel thick. My breathing had gotten worse. I needed the oxygen tank more often, but tanks don't fix the air around you. They only give you enough to stay alive while you're drowning. I remember trying to get to the kitchen for a glass of water. The hallway felt longer than usual. The walls of boxes felt closer. Halfway there, I stopped. I couldn't breathe. Not a wheeze, not a cough, nothing, like my lungs had been unplugged. I leaned against a stack of newspapers, taller than I was, and for a moment I felt the whole pile tilt toward me. I thought I'd be crushed there, buried under the life I refused to let go of. I collapsed. Not dramatically, just a slow, helpless sink to the floor. I lay there, surrounded by my clutter, gasping shallow, desperate breaths. The dust felt like needles. The air felt thick, like syrup. I closed my eyes and thought, this is it. This is how I die. Alone, in the dark, surrounded by junk. When my daughter called and I didn't answer, she came to check on me. She had a spare key. She opened the door and froze. Later, she told me she couldn't even see me at first because the piles were so high. When she found me on the floor, she burst into tears. She didn't yell. She didn't judge me. She just knelt beside me, lifted my head onto her lap and whispered, "Dad, I'm taking you to the hospital." The doctor said the dust had triggered a severe COPD flare. My oxygen levels were dangerously low. My lungs were inflamed, struggling, exhausted. The X-rays showed damage that wasn't recent damage that had been building for years. The doctor asked again about my home. This time I didn't lie. I told him everything. The clutter, the boxes, the dust, the grief, the loneliness. He didn't judge me. He just nodded and said quietly, "Mr. Leonard, your home is killing you." Those words hit me harder than any symptom ever had. My home, the place I clung to, protected, defended, had become a coffin I'd been building one box at a time. I didn't want to believe it, but the truth was undeniable. The environment you live in becomes the life you live, and mine was suffocating me. My children cleaned the house while I was in the hospital. They rented dumpsters. They hired professionals. They wore masks because the air was so dirty it wasn't safe to breathe. My daughter cried when she told me how bad it was. My son got angry not at me, but at the pain I had put myself through, at the years I had chosen loneliness over help, at the stubbornness that ran in our family like a curse. "I wish you had told us," he said. "I was ashamed," I replied. "You didn't have to be," he whispered, "but I did. Shame is the heaviest thing I've ever carried, heavier than any box in that house." When I finally went back home after months of treatment, the house looked empty, clean, bright. The air smelled like lemon and disinfectant. It should have felt relieving. It should have felt freeing, but it felt like a stranger's home, like someone had erased the last 13 years of my memory. I stood in the doorway and cried, not because I missed the clutter, but because I realized how much of my life I had wasted living inside it. The damage was done. Cleaning the house couldn't clean my lungs. The doctor said my COPD is permanent progressive. Oxygen tanks will be part of my life now. Breathing will always be a struggle. I feel it every day, the tightness, the wheezing, the exhaustion from walking 10 steps. My lungs are tired. I am tired. Tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix. Now, lying here in this bed, nurses checking on me, machines measuring the rise and fall of my chest, I think about something simple: air. I used to take it for granted. The way it fills your lungs, the way it refreshes you, the way you never think about it until it's slipping away. I destroyed my own air. I dirtied the only thing my lungs ever needed. I suffocated myself long before the disease ever did. If someone were listening to me, someone living alone, someone grieving, someone holding on to things they don't need, I'd tell them this clutter is not comfort. Clutter is not love. Clutter is not memory. Clutter is a slow death, and dust is poison. Open a window, let light in, let someone help you. Don't shut yourself away with objects that cannot talk back, cannot care for you, cannot save you. Don't build a prison out of the things you're afraid to throw away. Don't let grief turn your home into a grave. Don't let shame silence you. The things you keep will not keep you alive. But the people you push away, they would. If I could go back, I'd let Mary's mug be just a mug. I'd let the newspapers go. I'd let the dust be cleaned before it ever settled. I'd let my children inside before the house became unlivable. I'd choose air over objects, breath over memories, life over loneliness. But I can't go back. I can only breathe the best I can with the lungs I have left.